Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Hey, good morning, my friends. Glad you can join us. It's always an adventure here in Jim Hinckley's America. This week, we're going to be talking with Jackie Dunn of the Tulsa Model A Ford Club. A little bit of time travel and time machines, if you will. Next week, we're going to have some great fun. We're going to have Cheryl Eichar Jett, Teri Ryburn, Debyjo Ericksen talking with us about the upcoming Route 66 Miles of Possibility Conference. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun this morning, and we're going to have a lot of fun next week. And then I got some real surprises coming up for you in October. But we'll talk more about that in the future. Let's see if we can kind of get things rolling. And let's see what we can do here. To me, when you travel on if you want, as close as we're going to get to time travel, in my opinion, is you take a good vintage car. Nothing wrong with street rods. I understand, but an original car, and you get out on a two-lane highway like Route 66. That's about as close as we're going to get to actual time travel. It is really, really an adventure when you do that. You get to experience things as they were. And few vehicles make that possible as much as the lowly Model T and Model A Ford. They are they're easy to get parts for. They're not overly expensive. They're easy to learn. They're easy to repair. They're easy to take care of. You've got strong club support, strong parts availability.
Hello.
Jackie, how are you this morning?
Well, I'm good.
Well, God
I'm
bless.
trying to start my live chat, but I'm not sure I'm successful here.
No, it's okay. If not, we got you on the phone. So how does that sound?
Oh, that sounds great.
We'll just make life as easy as we can for you and for me and, well, for anybody else we run into today. So how are things in Tulsa?
Well, we're just hopping. We're doing real good. We got some new Route 66 things happening in Sapulpa, which is right outside of Tulsa. And they're the old Rock Creek Bridge. That's really an iconic Route 66 landmark here in Sapulpa. They're making a little formalized stop out of it where they're going to have license plates from all different kinds of states displayed, little park areas, and it's really going to make it nice over there. It's right next to the old drive-in theater that they restored on Route 66 as well. So we're hopping over here in Route 66 Central, better known as Sapulpa.
Well, I'll tell you, all along Route 66, Oklahoma, you've got some good people at the helm. Your Lieutenant Governor, Reese Martin with the Oklahoma Route 66 Association, his wife Samantha in Tulsa. And they're passionate, their enthusiasm is infectious, and they're very good about developing cooperative partnerships and fostering that development of a sense of community. And that's transformative.
It truly is. We've had Reese Martin out to our club to speak to us this year because we wanted to see how we could participate as the Tulsa Model A Ford Club in the events that are coming up. And he took his time to spend with us, and he has a great presentation, and I think, once you tap onto one person, then all of a sudden, that's how I got a hold of you.
Yeah.
And that networking is great.
Yes. Michael Wallace said that Route 66 was a linear community. I think we can take that a step further. It's America's longest small town. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's quick to help each other. So thank you for taking time today to join us. We've had a brief conversation. My mom said I was born 90, and I never seem to get any older. I've always had a fascination for old vehicles. When my wife and I were courting some 45 years ago, I'd come in off the ranch with my 46 GMC, and we double dated in a 26 Ford. And I've always had a fascination for the Model A, but I've never owned one. And I do apologize for that. That's a shortcoming on my part.
Well, you have a whole lot of new friends if you do get one, because there's a lot of clubs around the United States, and they are great clubs because they believe in restoration. They certainly live and love the legacy of it all. As you come on down, we can introduce you to a nice 1931 truck.
Oh, gosh, I better hide my wife from hearing that.
I can give you a few tips to make it girl-friendly.
My wife, my dear friend, like I say, she's up for sainthood. We've had some grand adventures. We'd been married about 20 years or so before I ever owned a pickup truck that was manufactured after I was born. But the Model A, I opened this by talking about time travel, and I was teasing people a bit. But when you get a car or truck like a Model A Ford, and that's original, and I don't have anything wrong with a street rod as long as you don't cut up an original car. I got it. They just don't do anything for me. But if you get an original vintage car like a Model A and you take to a 2-lane highway, and like Route 66, and you drive out to Clanton's Cafe in Veneta, Oklahoma, that's as close to time travel as I think a person can get.
Well, you know why? It's because you can only go 45 or 55 miles an hour, so everything slows down, time slows down, and you can see time better when you're going slower.
Yes. I've had a few of those vehicles that you drove slower because you had to. And you appreciate things. It makes you see things different, and you experience things because without air conditioning, the windows are down. So you experience the heat or the cold. You experience the smells of fresh mown hay, and it's something we've lost with modern cars that are. I think we all like the modern car convenience. I don't think any of us would want to cross the Mojave Desert in July without air conditioning, but we've paid a price for that. We live in a little bubble. We don't really drive anymore. We just kind of point the vehicle, and we lose a lot of the sensation that comes from a road trip by not having something like a Model A.
Well, the first time I jumped in one of those things, I had no idea that you needed to carry a megaphone with you because it gets going. You got to talk louder to have a conversation. So, it's harder to tell my husband what to do when he's driving when you're in a Model A. He loves it.
Yeah, it becomes addictive.
It's a wholesome sensation. You're right.
It's. I think vintage cars can become almost an addiction because you do. So the people, it's not cold and impersonal. You have to depend on a network of friends and associates. There's a learning curve, and it doesn't seem to matter whether it's kids or old people. When you drive by, they wave at you. When you stop, they talk to you.
And it's so cute to see you're out in the country and you're driving many times Route 66, and it's just you and 2-lane highway, and you're going by these farms and houses, and you see like might be what the dad standing out there in the yard, and you can just see his mouth going because he's yelling at the kids to come out and look at this car. Yes. And and the minute you hit that horn, those kids, they jump up and down and they want you to do it again, and so to have that two-way conversation just driving along the road where you weren't actually face-to-face talking, but it's a communication tool to say hello and let's connect,
Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot as far as age goes. None of us are kids anymore, I guess. But how long have you and your husband been involved with Model A's?
Well, I like to say it's in my DNA because my ancestors drove them. But we've been involved only for about 8 years or so. But my husband got started on Model A's when he was a junior in high school. Somehow his dad said, here's this old Model A, and I don't know what year that Model A was. Andy, what year was that Model A? 1929. And he tried to put some other kind of engine in it. And so the migration along the way is we've owned kind of some classic cars along the way, but nothing like a Model A. And then, ironically enough, don't let this story get around too much, but we decided we were going to have fun, and we went to a new casino that opened up. And we don't gamble much, so we're not. But he was out there playing blackjack, and I was having a bad evening. I was down about $300, and I was sitting there waiting for him to get done off the blackjack tables. We could go home. And he came over and he said, how are you doing tonight? I said, not too good. I said, I think I lost 300. I don't know how to get it back. He says, well, don't worry about it. I just won $18,000.
Oh.
I said, no, you didn't. And what he did is he went and bought his first Model A with that.
Oh, wonderful.
And so I said, well, why did you, of all the things, he says, I've always wanted one. I wanted something to show for that money. And so the rest has been history. And then, of course, when you get it, you got to figure out how you fix it. And so that's how we got connected up with Larry Shepard out in St. Louis. He had our little roadster. It was a 1930 deluxe roadster, just as cute as it can be, with a rumble seat, just everything that's iconic about a Model A. He had it for about 6 months, and we got it back. And we didn't want to join the club until we had a car that would run. So that's when we joined the Tulsa Model A Club. And those guys, we hadn't been in there but a year or two, and they celebrated their 50th anniversary of being a club here in Tulsa.
Oh.
And so your question was how did we get into it? And he's a gearhead. I'm not a gearhead. I'm just a great passenger. So he's done a lot of work on it himself. And in the club, one of the advantages of being in the club is you have mechanics that really know the insides and outs. And we've got two guys especially, and they've been doing it for years and years. And those are the guys I'd like to connect you up with, Jim, so you could sit down and talk to them. And one of them really likes truck. He's got some of the cutest trucks that you'll ever see. Maybe we can set you up if you ever get over here to go see his collection. But anyway, that's how he got into it. And when you talk to the club members, we did a 50th anniversary, and everybody says kind of how they got into Model A's. And almost all of them harken back that they had a grandfather or an uncle, or they were into that hot rod period that happened right after World War II. And the only cars left around that were affordable for a kid even then, even though Model A's were on the streets of the 1950s. But so it's just a lot of it is our generation. And so how do you pass that on to the next generation who didn't have such a close relative to them? It would be medieval to them by now. But how do you get them into it? And it's one of the struggles of clubs to try to do that engaging. But everybody likes you when you drive that down the street. Everybody, young and old alike, like you said, smiles, and it makes their day. They take videos and ask you at the gas station what you got. And So you're right. It's not only is it addictive, it's infectious. And maybe that's just how we do it, to keep driving them. That's what we determined in the club anyway.
Well, you mentioned getting younger folks involved. I've had this conversation with regarding Route 66 and a lot of different things, and with a younger audience. And at my age, it's anybody under 50 is one of the kids. They're one of the youngsters. But there's glimmers, and the Model A and Model T club. The Model A and Model T owners do this very well. There's a museum in El Segundo, California called the Automobile Driving Museum. And it was established because car collectors, were worried that a younger generation was not interested in pre-war and especially pre-30 cars. And they came to the conclusion the reason was younger people, when they see these cars, there's always a sign, do not touch. So they decided to rectify that by having people touch. They brought in youngsters, teenagers to help maintain the cars. And on weekends, you pay a little extra at the museum and they take you for a drive, literally. You might be in a 1905 Cadillac. It might be an AMC Pacer or a DeLorean or a Model A in a rumble seat. But they expose them to the vehicle. And Model A and Model T owners have always been good about that. If there's a young person interested in the car, they show them the car. They talk to them about the car. And that sparks the interest.
You're spot on. You're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. I don't know how many rides we've given to kids in our car, and even our club about 2 or 3 years ago, we took all of our cars after our monthly breakfast to the local boys' home, where boys go in and they try to, bring them back so that they're not always getting into trouble and things. And we had them all out there. We had all of our hoods. That's another tradition. Model A people open their hoods immediately if they're going to be on display. But they had all the kids come out there, and we let them sit in it, and we gave them rides and let them honk the horns and look in the engines and talk. And, before they walked out of, their living quarters, they looked pretty glum group of boys. But they got out there with those cars, and they heard them start up. They honked the horns and stuff. They transformed them.
Yes, it's transformative.
So that's just such a good feeling to know you could leave that parking lot and their day was a little bit different, maybe a little bit better.
A bit of a name. It's not my intent to be a name dropper, but I do a book signing most every year at a bookstore, Auto Books, Aero Books, a really great store, been in business since 1953 out in Burbank. And Jay Leno is a big proponent of taking time to talk with kids, young people in general. And the last time I was there, he did exactly what you're talking about. A kid showed up that most people, car club people, would probably turn away from. He showed up in a little tuner car, a little Honda with no muffler, covered in tattoos, baggy pants. And Jay Leno was there in a Duesenberg, of all things.
Oh, cool.
And the kid started showing an interest, and Jay must have spent 20 minutes with that young man. Had him sitting in the car behind the wheel, opening the hood, talking to him about it. This is like a $5 million automobile. And he just had got the kid really interested. And that's the key, whether Route 66 or Model A Fords. You got to engage the youngsters to get them interested.
Well, and we've got 2 young boys in our club, and they come with their mom, who's in her 30s, and they probably are just preteen. And they're very quiet. They sit on their little cell phones and everything. And what you don't know about them, if you don't talk to their mom about them, they can drive Model A's. Their grandpa lets them get out there because he's got a lot of acreage and he's got a lot of cars. And the one boy helps his grandpa all the time. And he tells him, go bring the Model A around. And he brings it around. And he taught his daughter to drive. And in fact, we're trying to get her to be a board member in our club. And I think that's going to work. So that we can get that feeling for how do we freshen up everything And I want, if it's just these two kids during my entire Model A career here, that I'm able to influence and keep them stimulated in this kind of interest, because it helps you not just here, but if you are interested in legacy and restoration and preservation, and all that ties into family, your community, and everything, and all that common ground can't be anything but good for a kid.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I agree. One of the things, I don't know if you've seen this or noticed this, but I follow a lot of Model A groups, Facebook pages and forums. It's not big, but I have noticed in the last 10 years an uptick in people 40 and under that are getting a first Model A, and they're asking questions, repairs, driving. And I've encountered a couple young people in my travels, 30-ish, because the Model A Ford is still a very practical car for basic. 90% of our driving is just back and forth to work and to the store. And a Model A Ford is still a great car for this. And I'm finding a few young people that are adopting the Model A Ford to their daily transportation. I find that very fascinating.
A lot of our club members do this. And, we have what we call the 1,000-mile club. And every year we collect our mileage and turn it in. And this works with the Model A Ford Club of America. And you get little, they're like little paper medals or something. They're nothing fancy, but it's just a pride thing. And so you collect your mileage, and a lot of people get theirs just drive around town. And we try to promote it at the club where we have events, that day trips, and we go to breakfasts. And of course we do a fall tour and a spring tour, and where we travel a lot more miles. In fact, we went to the regional one year in Springfield, Missouri, and that was a lot of fun. But that's where I found out some of the modifications that you can make for the car that make it a lot easier. At the time we did that trip, we just had the Roadster, and the Roadster is just a 2-car thing. You might as well be running around with just a box and the two of you in there, because it is hot. The floor gets hot. And anyway, after we got back, we decided we would buy a 4-door sedan, and we had 2 cars at one time. But when we went on tours, we would always use the sedan, because it has a huge back seat, and you can put in an air conditioner, which we did. It's just a little thing, and it doesn't take much to keep that small cockpit cool, And we insulated the floor so my feet didn't burn off, and we worked with suspension a little bit and put turn signals and seat belts, and gave ourselves a 12-volt electrical system, and we were basically done. And we installed the most important thing that you can install, and that is a horn. Yeah. And we've had ones, and they've got the Model A Club. They're hilarious. We've got one guy that has it sound like a wolf whistle, so he does it when the girls walk by. And my husband at one time had a loud train horn in there, and some people do sirens, and then most of us also, you can have more than one horn too. So we also had the typical Claxton horn, where it's the ooga. That's the iconic sound, and that's really the one we use the most now. But I don't know how I got off on that subject. So
no, it's great. No, that's wonderful. You've got to originality. I'm a big fan of original vehicles, but there's common sense in this too. As much as I love an original vehicle, turn signals. Let's face it. Now you do arm signals today, and people think you're waving at them.
Or doing worse.
Or worse, exactly. So you've got to make some little tweaks. And that's another thing with the Model A Ford that's so interesting. Everything from complete long block drop-in engines with insert bearings to overdrive units. There's all kinds of things available that make the Model A so practical. When I talk to young people about adapting a Model A as a daily driver, the first thing that usually comes up about, well, I don't want to give up. fill in the blanks. But, it's not so much that you're giving up something, it's what you're gaining. Model A Fords are relatively cheap to purchase. Almost anybody with common sense, even if you're not a mechanic, and I'm not a mechanic, I've played one once or twice, but you can learn to fix these. And the cost savings, just that alone, makes Model A Ford ownership very practical.
And there's lots of parts houses out there. I mean, I can give you a list of about 10 or 12 of them just right off the top of my head. And not only that, but there's a whole network of Model A owners that you can just contact your local Model A club, and there's going to be somebody that's repairing me. He's got a garage full, I call it, or you go to these rust conventions, as I call them, where people line up all their stuff that they've had in the back of their shops or garages, and the stuff is out there to be had, and it's not horribly expensive.
No, it is not. When you compare, like now, a good, just basic used car, an around town car, basically, it might be 20 years old, 170,000 miles. Those are $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 now. And you can buy a pretty dependable, decent Model A in the $10,000 range. It's not going to be much to look at, but mechanically,
no, it won't be much to look at. But if you can get the motor going and you can fix the other stuff, if it appeals to you along the way.
Yeah.
And if you really look at it, if you really want to buy one that's in really good shape, maybe it would top out at $21,000, $22,000. Yeah. And that's still, money's hard to come by these days, but that's still affordable.
Yeah. Well, that's why money was hard to come by when the Model A was new, and that's one of the things that made the car so appealing. And parts availability and the availability of help if you have problems and don't know what to do. I think that's one reason Model A and Model T owners drive their cars, and people with Hudsons, Studebakers, Chryslers that are really more practical for modern highway use, they don't get driven as much, or they get street rotted. I think part of that's because of the availability of parts and help that you can get with a Model A and T.
I believe that to be the case. Because our club, we've got like about 110 members, and we stay pretty steady at that. And so between all of us, and so that's probably about 60 families or so. And so we have probably among all of us about maybe 100 Model A's. And all those people, they've got parts in their garage. So if you need something, at the next meeting you go to, you say, hey, I'm working on such and such, or how do you do this? And I've seen guys do this. The other guys hear somebody's talking about, pretty soon it would start out to be a 2-person conversation. There's 6 guys standing around telling them how they can do it and what their experience was. And by the way, come to my shop tomorrow. I got one of these, and that network, and they also have little, the mechanics in the club also do little coffee things with the guys, and they go into the guy's mechanic shop, and he teaches them how to do the brakes, because those are tricky.
Yes.
But once you learn it, and when you learn all the tricks, because these guys have all the tricks, then you're off and running, And like you said, the simplicity of the engine is a good way for kids to learn, and it's an easy way for a retired person to keep her going.
Well, and another thing I noticed with a lot of Model T clubs and Model T owners is it's a family. Yeah, you'll see grandfathers' sons and their sons, and their families all being, the whole clan will be involved with Model A events, Model A tours, and fixing Model A's. And that's another neat thing about it. The Model T is a beautiful automobile for some. When you first look at a Model T or Model A, the first thing you think of from today's eyes, looking at it through the eyes we have today, you think of primitive. But actually, they're not primitive. It's brilliant design of simplicity. is really what it boils down to. And the Model T, to me, is I've had a couple. They're good cars once you figure out how to drive those things, but they're a little too primitive. The Model A you can still use with practicality.
Well, what I read somewhere where Henry Ford took the Tin Lizzie and made a lady out of it when he introduced the Model A.
I've got a book here on the shelf from 19. Let's see here. Here it is, 59, and yeah, that's exactly what it says. Henry made a lady out of the Tin Lizzie. And, yeah. Most interesting. Edsel Ford played a pretty good hand in the Model A Ford design, especially.
It wouldn't have been there without him, because his dad said the Model T ain't broke. There's no reason to fix it. But what happened was, not only did you have the Depression, but you had Chrysler and you had GM out there bringing cars with new bells and whistles and better engines and better looking cars, and they were losing their marketplace. So Edsel came along, and Henry was a very hard sell.
Yeah.
But he finally talked him into it. It was a daunting thing, because they had to lay off in order to. They shut down the line in late 1926 and for most of 1927, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, but they had to lay off 60,000 workers, and then during the Depression, that was no fun. But they retooled, and they got up and running. And then the new Model A was born in December of 27. I think they made about 4,000 of them or so. And everybody was waiting for it, because it came out at a good price. It was like $500 or something. You could go a little bit higher if you wanted. But to get yourself on the road with the Model A, that was affordable for people. And but a lot of people say if Edsel had, didn't die, what was it, in 1943, where would Ford be today? What would it look like today? And that's a big what if, but it's just kind of fun to think about a little bit. But my family, my family grew up in Detroit. We had all kinds of family that worked for Ford, still do for that matter. But, that made Detroit. It was a stable income. And, the Model A got out there, and the American suburbs started growing,
Yes.
And it connected towns, and and they weren't the only car in town. When you're a Model A guy, you act like it did everything but invent the microwave. But it went a long way to making that happen. And he had such a market share, he being Henry, that impact was, happened.
Yeah, the Ford Motor Company, Henry Ford, he didn't start out really that way. He was always strong-willed, but by the late teens, he was, to put it mildly, he was kind of an ass. And
he certainly wasn't politically correct as we might view it today.
You mentioned losing sales. I wrote an article a while back for a publication, and I did some research on this, that in about 1920, roughly, even though when you bought a Model T Ford, you were buying, it'd be like trying to buy a Commodore computer or an Atari game system today. You were buying, even though it was a new car, you were buying an antique car. 3 out of 5 vehicles in the world were a Ford Motor product in 1920. Then by 1925, he'd lost about 70% of the market share, because even Chevrolet, all the cheap cars were coming out, and it was just you were buying an antique car. And as far as Edsel goes, today you mention Edsel, and everybody thinks of the car that looks like a Buick sucking a lemon, and they don't think of the fella behind these cars. Edsel Ford put Lincoln, out there. He was instrumental in the design of the Model A. He was
and he got the V8 going too, I think.
Yeah, he was a big part of that. I have a funny story to share. It's kind of related but unrelated. Like I say, as a kid, I don't know why, but I've always been gravitated to this old stuff. And I was living in Michigan in early 70s. And an elderly gentleman across the street was moving to Florida. And he had a beautiful little rust, not bad, 39, I think it was, Lincoln Zephyr convertible coupe. And it had the V12. And I went to a mechanic, still had mechanical brakes that early. So it was early 39. And I took it to a mechanic. I wanted to buy this. My dad was trying to talk me out of it. And the mechanic looked at me and said, son, with these old Fords with V8 engines, the only way you can be sure of stopping them is aim them at a brick wall. The brakes, that's another, the Model A with mechanical brakes, if they're adjusted and done right for the speeds you're driving, the brakes are just fine. They work great. People are afraid of that.
They're just fine. It's like anything else. The more you use it and everything, it becomes second nature to you. So,
yeah. It's not disc brakes, but for the speeds you're driving, if they're the key is having them adjusted properly, and
that's the big key, big key,
and maintaining that adjustment.
Yeah. Well, and the other very important thing about it is to have somebody else drive it around for you to test it.
Wow, I don't know what to say about that. You drive it. You go out and see how those brakes are. Yes. Oh my. And before you leave, sign here where it says beneficiary.
Yeah. No, I'm just teasing.
Yes.
But it's funny. I remember when I was growing up, my dad, I don't know what kind of car he had, 1949 Cadillacs and some other type of things along the way. But I can always remember him out in the garage with my brother telling him to pump the brakes. He was working on the brakes. I don't know if that happens with Model A's or not, but that used to be a big deal, to be the guy that was pumping the brakes for Dad while he was working on them.
Yep, did that a lot. He had to bleed the air out of the brake system, hydraulic
brake
system.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Okay.
And that's Henry Ford fought ever putting hydraulic brakes on cars. That was another weird thing about Henry. Chrysler, when they came out, started 25, 26, Chrysler Maxwell, they always had hydraulic brakes, and Ford fought that. He took out full-page advertisements about how dangerous and how bad hydraulic brakes were. He just saw no reason for anything other than mechanical brakes, and God, he kept that up well into the 1930s, late 30s.
Yeah. Well, I guess the Model T, I think, had two-wheel brakes, but he came up with the four-wheel mechanical brakes. But you're right on that hydraulic thing. That was a big issue.
Yeah. There was some odd, quirky things there, but that was a big difference. The Model A and Model T was you actually had four-wheel brakes. The Model T only had brakes on the rear wheels, and those were pretty much for novelty use only. That's true. You had that handbrake on the side, the lever, and I was always told, I've got a Model T, Model T service manuals here, and at certain speeds under like 10 miles an hour, you could slowly apply reverse to help slow the car.
The first time was a thrill.
Yeah, kind of strange. The Model A, again, people driving these. I am so intrigued by people. I've got a Model A club coming through. In fact, I think they're going to stop and talk to you folks in Tulsa. They're doing
tonight. Tonight I'm going to go meet them for dinner, Bob and the guys.
Yeah, they're tremendous people. Dr. Lindsay Baker is traveling with them, and you're going to love him. He did a great book called Eating Up Route 66 about Route 66 diners and restaurants. And for most of his life, and he's an elderly gentleman, late 60s, early 70s, he says most of his life has always been driving Model A's. And when I first met him several years ago, he's working on this book. He's from Texas. He was driving his 28, 29 Woody wagon, and I guess he's driving it on this trip as well.
Oh, I hope I see it out there. I hope I see it out there tonight.
Yeah, he probably will.
They're going to stay at the Campbell Hotel, which is along Route 66.
Yes.
And it looks like nothing from the outside, but they've done it up really kind of very, very nice inside.
Yes.
And so I've never been on, I've seen it on the internet. So I'm looking forward to going inside the hotel because they're going to have a buffet or something and seeing, but it really looks like it. And it's a good part of town where it's got a lot of nostalgia in it. And that's where the farmer's market is. And, the Tulsa College and it's just got that Route 66 feel to it.
It does.
We call it, kind of a historical district as well, and a Circle Cinema where they show the old movies, and so I'm kind of really looking forward to meeting them. And I don't know if he's listening today, but I got him a Route 66 Monopoly game so they can play along the way.
Yeah, the Campbell Hotel is really neat. That's got a great story behind it about as far as reclamation. When they started renovating that building, and I don't mean to be crude, but that thing was in such bad shape. I wouldn't have peed on it if it was on fire. It was just in bad shape. A little tip for everybody who might be listening today: the Campbell Hotel, I stayed there last year when I was in Tulsa for the Road Fest. I discovered right across the street, kitty corner across the street, the Oklahoma Route 66 Association has a beautiful offices and mural neon right next door at the end of the parking lot, Campbell Hotel. And directly across the street, there's a strip mall, little tattoo parlor, bail bondsman. Sweetie Pie's Amish Kitchen and Bakery is right across the street. Oh my, did I fall in love with that place. That is a delight.
Yeah, that's what I like about that little route down there.
Does the Model A Club have any plans for the Centennial, Route 66 Centennial? Any kind of road trips or anything cooking?
Well, yes.
Okay.
There's various things coming along that have not gelled yet. In fact, this next week, we're taking a bunch of our cars over to the Tulsa's new park that's kind of world famous, I guess. It's called the Gathering Place. It's right along the river, and it is state-of-the-art park. It's unbelievable. They have kayaking, got just unbelievable things. And they're going to have a kind of a, what do you want to call it? Kind of a kickoff meeting for Tulsa Route 66. And they wanted a bunch of our Model A's there right as people come in to come to the event. So we get calls like that. Michael Wallace, he lives at the Sophia Plaza. He wants us to come there next year to show our Model A's off because it is also 100 years old. So you've got Route 66 and the Sophia Plaza, which is a 8-story or so old apartment building that they've switched to condominiums, and famous people have lived there and everything. And it's right downtown by the river. You probably have been by there if you've been around Michael very much, but there's a bunch of other things that we're doing. Plus, we promote it within the club. We started this year, every club giving away Route 66 memorabilia to the members, have like a free drawing and stuff like that. And that stuff's very popular. But so one of the things I was going to ask the club to do, because we'll get a new board members this next year, is to go somewhere in a big field like we did for our 50th anniversary, where we took all of our Model A's and we had a drone out there to take an aerial picture, and we formed the number 50.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to do 66, if we can do that without getting too complicated, and have that be another promotion with Model A's showing Route 66. And they were going to have how many people drove through this certain spot on Route 66, trying to break the Guinness World Book of Records or something. I don't know if they'll actually do that, because it's a logistical nightmare to line up billions of cars. Well, you'd be there 3 days before you get through the checkpoint. But we get asked, and we try to promote ourselves. And so we felt really kind of honored to be asked by the Gathering Place to show up and be part of that kickoff for Route 66. So that's the kind of things that we do. We don't have any kind of money with our club, but we want to share our cars, and
Sure.
which we gladly do.
Yeah, Reese talked to me. I had him on the program a few weeks ago, and they're hoping to have the longest car parade in the world next year in Tulsa.
Yeah, that's probably what they've redubbed it as, and certainly we're going to try to be a part of that.
If anybody that's listening to the program is an event organizer, and obviously if you're an event organizer, you do very good piñata impersonations, taking a beating. But here's an idea for you: is next year is also the 250th anniversary of the United States, and it happens to fall on the 4th of July next year. Wouldn't it be neat to put together a celebration of 250th anniversary of the United States on the main street of America, Route 66, and invite local Model A Ford clubs to come be a part of that? If you make money off that, please don't forget my address. Jackie, I want to thank you for taking time today to do this. And I appreciate what you do with the Model A Ford, keeping this alive, keeping the interest going, you and your husband and the club members. And I'm going to look forward to meeting you both. I'm tentatively, nothing's been finalized, but I've been talking with Wade and Reese that I'm supposed to be back there for the Road Fest next year in June. And so I look forward to meeting everyone. I really do.
Well, and I do appreciate the opportunity to get on and just talk about Model A's on your podcast.
Yeah.
And so you're welcome down here anytime, and we will show you the town and maybe things you haven't seen, but I doubt we can pull one on you, but we'll try if we can.
You know, I'm old enough now. The more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. And so I'm always up for surprises. I've been going to that Sweetie Pie's Amish bakery and kitchen. They just opened in March of this year, so it's relatively new. But there's always new things to discover, always new things to find. So yeah,
that's right.
And I've been spending a little more time in Tulsa the last couple of years. And the more I'm around Tulsa, the more I find that town, the enthusiasm people have for what's happening is infectious. The sense of community is dynamic. And I really like what's happening there.
Well, we do too. And we like calling it home. And we invite you here anytime you want to come by.
Jackie, thanks for joining us today. I greatly appreciated. And, we'll be talking soon.
That's a good deal then. Thank you, and thank you for having me on. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, Jackie. Isn't that a delight, Model A Fords? Hey, if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to chime in. I want to give you a couple updates. I'm really excited about next week's program. I'm excited about every program. I always enjoy getting together with you folks. We're going to be talking with Debyjo Ericksen, Teri Ryburn, and Cheryl Eichar Jett about the upcoming Route 66 Miles of Possibility conference. I can't say enough about this conference. And these three women have poured themselves into this. They're the dynamic duo, along with Jeff Ladd and their team. They pour themselves into this event. And the Miles of Possibility conference is a throwback. It's a tangible link to the old U.S. Highway 66 Association conventions of the 1930s. It's about the business of Route 66, the networking that's crucial for building a series of cooperative partnerships and a sense of community. But there's also a whole lot of fun. There's a lot of fun with the Miles of Possibility. And I want to encourage everyone to, if you're in the area or can get there, it's going to be in Joliet this year. And we'll be talking all about the things that are happening. But this is a really, really great event. They always manage to blend the business of Route 66 with fun. So that's going to be a great conversation next week, and I hope you can join us on that. The following week, we've got sculptor, internationally acclaimed sculptor, Don Giulianella, and he's done some extraordinary work. You're going to be surprised. Even though he has done sculpture around the world, he's got a Route 66 connection. I think you're going to find that of interest too. We had a whole list of great programs. We're trying to tie up loose ends and pin some folks down. Been talking to some great people. I want to throw out a couple things. Of course, tie it in with this is sponsors of the program. And these people are more than just sponsors. They are truly partners. They're a big part of the Jim Hinckley's America community. And I envision this as a community of folks that are passionate about America's story and about road trips. And so we got to give a shout out to our good friends at the Wagon Wheel Motel and in Cuba, and Angela at the Cactus Inn Motel in McLean, and David Brenner out at the Roadrunner Lodge in Tucumcari. Dina Nelson, State Farm Insurance. God bless. We got some great friends and great partners. Gilligan's Route 66 Tours. Austin Coop with Tulane America. Be meeting with him, his tour group on Wednesday. Beating my gums and sharing a bit of the Kingman and Route 66 story for his group. I work with Route Trip USA. We've got some great sponsors you can find out more about. And since my name is probably the only thing I've got that's of real value, I'm really selective who we pony up with, who we're going to ride the trail with. And these folks share our passion, our vision, and our dedication to, well, inspiring road trips by telling people where to go, because that's what we do. Nolan was asking about radios as an option for cars. To the best of my knowledge, it was about 1919, 1920. You could start getting radios as an option. When they become standard, that's tough to pin down. There's a couple of companies. One that was really intriguing, as you want to do some homework, is Spartan out of Jackson, Michigan. They started out as a farm implement company back mid-19th century. And around 1909, 1910, they morphed into electric automobile horns. They were the ones that really put that off. And I hate this. I could just picture this. Can you imagine living near the Spartan factory? They tested horns 24/7. But they became a major supplier for a lot of companies for car horns in the teens and the 20s. Studebaker, Hudson, other companies. Spartan also was a pioneer in development of radios for home and for automotive use. And then they were also a pioneer in the development of televisions. In the late 1930s, they began building television receivers at their factory complex, which had originally been the headquarters and factory for the Jackson Automobile Company back in 1903-4. We got lots of just incredible things coming down the pipe. We got the Model A Ford group that's traveling Route 66 that we mentioned. If you see them on the road, give them a holler. Take time to talk to them. Austin Coop is out there on the road. Sam Murray with Gilligan's Route 66 Tours. He's got a group out on the road. The thing that makes Route 66 special is the people. It's the people you meet traveling the road, the people who are working to preserve the road, the people like Debyjo and Cheryl and Teri that work tirelessly to put on events and conferences. All important stuff. Do you have any questions for me before I get into something, a plug? The new book, Route 66, 100 Years. You've heard me talk incessantly about this recently. There's been a few delays here and there with getting it in circulation. It is available for pre-order I have been assured shipping will begin November 5th. So plenty of time for Christmas. This is not your average Route 66 book in any stretch of the imagination. It's an anthology, first of all, and it was written not just by me, but a group of very, very talented and passionate Route 66 enthusiasts and friends. Cheryl Eichar Jett, Joe Sonderman, Reese Martin, and Greg Hassman, and my good friend Dries Bessels from the Dutch Route 66 Association. His contributions to the book provided a fascinating international view of Route 66 in this era of the centennial and beyond. But the other thing that made it a passion project for me, I wanted to delve into the origins of the U.S. highway system and Route 66, as well as the highway's evolution from highway to icon. And I got to do that with this book. They turned me loose a little. So if you're expecting just another Route 66 book, this isn't it. This is better. You're going to like this. We opened this book back in the 1830s with Senator Henry Clay's American plan for building a national transportation network. And I think you're going to be really surprised and fascinated. So I hope you enjoy this book. Let's see, what else? I got a couple other things I want to throw out here for you real quick. Got the Miles of Possibility Conference coming up in Joliet. If you get a chance, like I say, that's if you're in the neighborhood or anywhere in that area, you gotta take that in. I understand, I haven't confirmed this, Connect 66. I'm not sure they're getting this off the ground. It's a very ambitious project. They're working on developing a complete, comprehensive Route 66 centennial calendar of events. I'll keep you posted when that comes together. Yodel is an interesting concept. It's an AI-generated platform that if you're running a Route 66 association, have a Chamber of Commerce Tourism Bureau, I really suggest you look into Yodel. Talisman Magic Marketing, that developed the website, the Kingman Tours website for Kingman Main Street, they have added Yodel-powered event calendar to the Kingman Tours website. It's extraordinary how that has changed the website. And I'm not sure all the tech stuff, how this works, but Kingman Tours website now has one of the largest and most expansive regional event calendars here in Northwest Arizona. I will throw that out there, a little blending of the past, present, and future. Are there any questions I can answer for you today about, Model A Fords, Model T Fords? How many people have tried to drive a Model T? It's a lot of fun. Let me just give you a hint. You got 3 pedals on the floor, and none of them are a gas pedal or clutch. That's where it gets interesting. Model A Ford, I tell you, I've really got it in my head that I need a 31 Ford Model A truck. And I probably need that like a frog needs tap dancing shoes. But I got to do it before I get too old. I'm looking 70 in the eye. But I'd like to do Route 66 from end to end in a Model A Ford pickup. And I'll check with Mojave Mental Health first, I suppose. Well, my friends, if you have no questions, I'd like to encourage you to check out our website. We're revamping website. Folks there at SNH Green Stamp, thank you for that comment. I'm glad you enjoyed this. And you and I need to have a conversation pretty soon. We got a lot of things we need to be discussing. Let's see, what else? Podcast. It took us a while, and I have no clue why. I think it was my shortcoming. But Coffee with Jim is now available on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, And of course, we have an embedded player in the Jim Hinckley's America website for published programs. We do this live on Sunday morning because it's like a virtual diner. We can get together and visit a bit, chew the fat, and talk some. But the published programs are available. And if you're a website designer and you would like an embedded player, I can offer that too. Because, well, it's a shared adventure here at Jim Hinckley's America, my friend. And speaking of shared adventures, well, I bid you adios this morning with a little bit of music from Joe and Woody and my good friends at the Road Crew. And if you need some road trip inspiring music or a theme song for your adventure, take a gander at roadcrew66.com. Nolan, Elizabeth, Margaret, Keith, everybody who chimed in and joined us this morning, God bless, thank you. I've enjoyed this immensely. Take care, my friends. Until next week, adios.
Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a 2-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
And if you're traveling here in western Arizona the next couple days, well, fall has arrived. It's going to be in the low 80s most of this week. Take care, my friends.